everyone. Welcome back to my channel. I've temporarily forgotten the name. You can tell that I do YouTube quite a lot, which is not even a saying. I do YouTube quite a lot. But anyway, here we are, and the t-shirt for today is The Many Moods of Jason Voorhees, because we are doing Friday the 13th franchise ranking. Crystal Lake is coming out in October 15th. All episodes on the same day on Peacock in the US. Don't know what that's going to be in the UK and Ireland and Europe, but I'm sure we'll find it somewhere. So Crystal Lake, for those that don't know, is going to be the reboot, I guess, of Friday the 13th, the first one, and kind of what happens in that whole timeline between Pamela Voorhees losing Jason to his drowning and what happens at Camp Crystal Lake. So looking forward to that. So why not do a franchise ranking for Friday the 13th? So this one, the quality is all over the place. However, most of them, for the most part of the 12 movies so far, they're still enjoyable to watch, even though the quality is everywhere. For the most part, there's a couple that maybe just doesn't work. They're not even that entertaining. I do enjoy Friday the 13th quite a lot. A lot of people always kind of say which one you prefer, Halloween or Friday the 13th. I think there's the Friday the 13th always has that entertainment factor because it's just a bit more schlocky. I don't think there's the high points of Friday the 13th are as high as the high points of Halloween. So I don't think it's a Friday the 13th film that's as good as like Halloween 1978 or even Halloween 2, Halloween 2018. But there are ones that are as good as like Halloween 4, for example, and whatnot. But also on the same token, I don't know if there's a Friday the 13th film as bad as like Halloween Resurrections, for example. And Halloween Resurrections isn't even that fun to watch, I suppose. It's not got that entertainment factor. It has a little bit, but not completely. But anyway, let's get on with it. And if you're new to the channel, please like and subscribe and all that kind of stuff, because it's not just movie things. I am a writer, I am a fantasy writer, and there will be some book stuff on here as well. So let's get on with it. So first up, Jason X, which is the first Friday the 13th film that I saw in a cinema, actually. I hadn't seen, I'd seen them on TV. I'd seen some of them. I think the one that I'd seen most actually was the final chapter, number 4, which obviously isn't the final chapter, but it was at the time. Or it was meant to be anyway for Jason. And that was one that I'd seen the most, I think. It was always on TV for some reason. But Jason X was the first one that I saw in cinema when it came out, I think in 2001. And it is very, very much of its time. It's the one, Jason goes to space, which is always the kind of thing where, you run out of ideas when you go to space. But with Friday the 13th, it kind of works because it was never like the most highbrow kind of thing anyway, right? And the way that they kind of do it is it's fun setup. Now, is it good? No, it is not. Is it entertaining? Yes, it is. There's some great kills in this. Kane Hodder is brilliant as Jason, again, as he always is. The Uber Jason isn't in it quite as much as you'd want, really. But no, it's a good one. It's fun. You have a good time with it. The VR simulation of like the camp setting is fun. Yeah, it's just one of those ones. Just put it on. You're gonna have a good time with it. But is it good? No, it certainly isn't. So I think it's going to go into C for me. I would never, if it was on TV, I would never turn it off. if I just came across it, I'd watch it. Freddy versus Jason. So this is a long-awaited meet-up between Freddy and Jason that they've been working towards for a very, very long time. And in fact, when Jason Goes to Hell, the last shot is Freddy Krueger's claw coming up through the ground and grabbing Jason's mask and pulling it down into hell. But then they went and did Jason X afterwards because they still hadn't figured out the rights. And apart from the reboot, which we're going to get to next, this is the last Freddy versus Jason. Friday the 13th movie. Now, it's funny that it's always, whenever I see these tier rankings, this is always here on the Friday the 13th because obviously it's got Jason in it. And it always pops up on the Nightmare on Elm Street ones as well because it's got Freddy in it. But it feels much more like a Nightmare on Elm Street film with Jason in it. You know, Freddy is the kind of the main driver of the entire plot. Jason is just kind of a tool that he's using to kind of reignite the fear so he can return and be more powerful. And Jason is kind of really does take a back seat. There is some nice kind of like things around camps and the kind of ending is all kind of like around that kind of thing, but it's very, very much a Freddy film, in my opinion. And I think in a lot of people's opinion as well. Doesn't do a great job at balancing it. But is it entertaining? Yes, it is. It's a good fun time. It's not a great Jason film. The performance of Jason isn't great. They kind of go really into that kind of like zombie, but more like a mindless kind of, lethargic and kind of lumbering a little bit. It's not Kane Hodder this time, which is a shame. But that's because I think they kind of wanted to go with that more like Jason's kind of, enslaved to an extent to Freddy. But it's a good time. And, but in the end, when Jason and Freddy start fighting each other, it's fun. It's kind of like, proto kind of superhero team up or movies like Captain America Civil War or whatever. And there was plans to do more of these. There was going to be, I think there was trying to do Freddy versus Jason versus Ash from the Evil Dead for a very long time, but just couldn't get it together, which would have been fun. That would have been really, really good. But as it stands, Freddy vs. Jason for me, it goes into a B for me. Mainly because I'm judging this as, a Jason film, and it's not a great Friday the 13th film. It's a better Nightmare on Elm Street film, I think. So like maybe on a Nightmare on Elm Street ranking it might be an A, but or at least a strong B. But as of now, it's a B film. And now we come on to Friday the 13th, the reboot from 2009 with Jared Padalecki from my beloved Supernatural. Came out around the same time as Jensen Ackles' My Bloody Valentine 3D, the remake of My Bloody Valentine, which I think actually I prefer to this. I actually quite like My Bloody Valentine remake. I think it's a fun time. And I like this as well. I like this one. I think everyone in it is fine. Jared Padalecki is just Sam, basically, in this. As I think it was after the third season of Supernatural, this came out, or maybe the fourth season. And Jared Padalecki, I love him as Sam, but he's more limited, I think, in his range than Jensen Ackles is, and he's perfectly serviceable in this. It's got a lot of the vibes of Friday the 13th, right? What you'd expect, and it's not even like a remake of the first film. It is taking bits from the first four and putting them all together, which I think is fine. The setups and stories of those films aren't particularly complex. You can just kind of do that and put them all into one runtime. The opening, I think, is probably the strongest part of the film. where like Jason is kind of takes out that group of people that are all going there to find special plants that grow there that they can sell. Um, and that sequence is kind of like the greatest hits of like Friday the 13th, Carnage Candy, I suppose. Um, they reimagined Jason a little bit in this as well, where he is like he is like a real force of nature. He's like a really big guy, and he's fast, agile. It's kind of like a hunter, and I think that's kind of takes away a little bit from the feeling of what Friday the 13th should be. I mean, it is a fun film. It's got lots of good carnage in it. It's entertaining, but I think it's too polished to be a Friday the 13th film. And that's not like a slight against any of the other ones. There's a certain feel to Friday the 13th where it is that kind of like hokey kind of B movie kind of feel, but like it's supposed to be. And the reboot is really slick, and it's of that time of like the late 2000s where like it's shot really really well. Everyone in it is really attractive. Like all the people apart from Jason are like model like all no matter who it is. Um, it's got a good it's really well shot and produced and lit and all this kind of stuff. Um, and I think it kind of loses a little bit of what Friday the 13th should be for that. And some people really like this one. I know there's a YouTuber I watch that I really like his takes for the most part. And they're always interesting if I don't quite agree with them. But this is his favorite Friday the 13th film. That's Cody Leach for people that watch him as well. And I can see why it would be. It kind of takes all the things from Friday the 13th and puts it in this really well produced, well shot sheen. But I think you do lose that kind of B movie feel for it. I see some people that this is like one of their least favorites, which I don't kind of get. I don't really understand that, but I can accept it. So for me, this goes into B as well. Okay, now the original, the OG. Um, yeah, this is an interesting one because it's obviously like Friday the 13th went into kind of production because of the success of Halloween in '78, and that was what kind of really kickstarted the slasher genre and kind of pulled all together those different pieces that we talked about the last video, the Halloween um, franchise ranking. And then Friday the 13th came along and kind of took all those kind of things and kind of like upped the kind of carnage in it. It was bloodier, it was gorier, it was slockier. It was a B movie version, right? But what it also does as well, it's a mystery. It sets up a mystery about who the killer is. But it doesn't really work as a mystery because, and spoilers for Friday the 13th, which is a very, very old film now, and everyone knows this if you've seen Scream. The killer in the first film isn't Jason, obviously, it's his mother, Pamela Voorhees. And it kind of sets up where this mystery of like people are getting killed off at the camp where they're trying to reopen it after for the first time in years. And it turns out it's Pamela Voorhees, but she's not in the film until that point, until she just arrives once there's no one left apart from the final girl. And then she just turns up and it's like, well, obviously it's her. And as a mystery, like, part of the mystery is you give everyone all of the pieces, you introduce all of the characters, all of the people that are either going to be killed off, the red herrings, the person who actually is all the people actually are the killers. And, so people can guess as to go along. And when it's revealed, they can be like, oh, yeah, of course, I see it now. So it doesn't really work as a mystery because of that. And by the way, Scream kind of does like this thing, but better because it has all those pieces and has all those kind of people in it. But is it entertaining? Kind of. It's kind of slow. It's kind of dull in parts, but it's one of the better made Friday the 13th films in terms of that kind of B movie kind of style. And it is really influential. It is the first one. It's not a bad movie by any stretch of the imagination. Um, But it is one of the ones where if like, if I fancy watching a Friday the 13th film, um, it's not one that I would pick to watch straight away. It's not the one that I would go to. And if I ever rewatch the entire series, I'm like, yeah, glad I've watched that one. Glad it's out of the way. Um, so for me, this one it's a B, and it is below these two films. It's certainly not bad, but it doesn't quite have that entertainment factor. Um, Pamela Voorhees' performance in it is brilliant. Though when she's in it, she is completely unhinged, like and having the best time, and it really elevates the film when she's in it. Um, okay, and then we come to Friday the 13th Part Two, which um, kind of starts to kind of solidify the things that Friday the 13th would become known for. So it takes on the aspects of the original one and kind of ramps it all up and really kind of goes away from that mystery thing and just goes, okay, teenagers or people in the young 20s or whatever. Um, Although one of them I think was 16 when they were filming it as well, one of the cast. They're in a camp, they're all looking to set up a new camp. Um, and Jason is on the loose and he's, doing his thing, right? That is essentially it. But what this has going for it, it just does everything so well. The vibes are great, the setting is great, the cast is fun. It's got probably the best final girl in the series as well. She's brilliant and she's really smart. Not even she's good at like fighting and she's capable, but she's really smart as well. The way that she kind of tries to defeat Jason. And Jason is not the Jason that we know yet. It's not this Jason with the hockey mask. There is no hockey mask in this film. He has got a bag over his head with an eye in it because it was kind of being taken off. Was it either a film or it was actually a real life killer? I think it was maybe even both. And they were like, that's the look for this one. He's kind of like hillbilly Jason living out in the forest. He's got his little shack with shrines in there and everything. And it's just a really fun time, this one. And it is, for me, one of the best, if not the best. Well, we'll find out if it's the best. Um, it's really insane. I love watching it. Can endlessly rewatchable. Um, really good. And as was becoming the kind of trope with Friday the 13th films, really kind of funny, kind of like shock ending as well, which a lot of these ones do have. And now we come to Friday the 13th, part three. Um, are any of these films going to be A ones? They're either going to be B or straight into elite. I think there might be. This one would be one that would be teetering on the edge of that because what do I do? It's fun, right? And we get to see Jason become what we all know as Jason of the hockey mask and the outfit and all that kind of stuff. Um, this one, I mean, it's basically part two, but not as good as part two. Even though there's got some things that are going for it that's in some ways are better. You got Jason that's more identifiable. You got some really good carnage in this one. The cast is pretty good. I think the final girl in this one is really good as well. Um, but what it has not going for it is that it's really repeating the second film in a lot of ways. So it's like kind of diminishing returns. And also it was released in 3D. So there's lots of bits in it where and some of it works. Some of it is quite funny. Like, you have like the eyeball flying out the screen and all that kind of stuff. But you have like some shots of people just basically just tooling about for 3D with like yo-yos and stuff like that. And other things that were just shot just for the 3D effects. And there's a bit where there's bits where you can see the actors are kind of like laughing or not quite doing it, but they didn't have enough takes to do it because of the technology that was running. So it's a bit rough around the edges, this one, but that adds to its charm. And it's really watchable. So I think it is because I mean I would watch it before any of these other films, and I'd have a good time with it. Um, yeah, I think there's some really fun bits in it. It is a good one. It is good. So that brings us to that's probably the hottest take on here, actually. I think the rest of it, I think most people go, yeah, I can see where you're going, but people have feelings about part three. Um, but I know I like it. So Friday the 13th, the final chapter, so part four. So this is the one where Corey Feldman is in this one. Um, and this was meant to be Jason's last hurrah. As I said at the start, this is the one that I've probably seen this one the most. It was on TV so much, and I think it was like as well, like on when streaming first came out. I think it was the only one in Ireland that you could get on streaming for some reason, rights issues or whatever. So if I was in the mood to watch one, that was the one that was available. Um, this one is like a really beloved one. It's kind of taking all the things from part two and kind of ramping them up, and like this version of um Jason, he's brutal. Is really, I can't remember the guy who plays in this one, but he was like John Wayne's stuntman, and he's like really kind of just like he's like that really famous bit where he just tears through the front door of the building, and he's just like all business. Um, and it's good. I mean, it's everything that you'd want from a Friday the 13th movie. It's even got Crispin Glover doing some weird dancing, which is always great. Um, the only thing that I would say that this isn't as good as part two for me, or as entertaining, is it lacks a little bit that kind of humor. I think that kind of tongue-in-cheekness that two certainly has. It's probably like the most intense Friday the 13th, apart from the reboot. Um, and whereas I think like the reboot, the intensity kind of goes over the line a little bit of what you want from a Friday the 13th film. This one kind of just, it stays the right side of things. But, um, if I had to pick between watching, like, I was like, you have to watch Friday the 13th film, it's either part two or part four, I would probably go with part two. But saying that, it is still one of the best ones in the series by far. Um, Yes. So Friday the 13th, which one's this one? Is it part five? Yes, my old man eyes can't see this one. So so part four did really, really well. And they were like, well, let's do another one. Right. And this kind of fell into the same trap that they did with Halloween, where they killed off Michael Myers like definitively at the end of Halloween 2. And we're like, well, Halloween 3 is going to be something else. And it didn't do too well. People are kinder on Halloween 3 these days, but it was like people wanted. And so for like, Halloween 4, they brought him back. And this is what kind of happens this one. But in a weird kind of way. So what it is, it's still basically Jason, but it isn't Jason. It's a copycat killer wearing a hockey mask, and it's just some random bloke that is they don't do the same mistake as the first one because they do have a mystery of who the killer is, and it's kind of hinted that it's towards Corey Feldman's character, who has been recast because he's older in this one, and he's living in like a halfway home, um, a halfway house, um, and this one is kind of like the schlockiest so far. Like it's got like by far the most nudity. It's got by far the most kind of like weird choices. Like it's got the biggest B movie feel, even towards a C movie, I think. Um, but it doesn't do anything new at this point. Like if you're gonna kind of take a new, fresh look at the series, take the opportunity to do something new. And this doesn't really do that. It just basically goes, well, you're just gonna have someone just um, go a bit mad and start dressing up as Jason and start killing people, you know. And then it turns out it's just some bloke that was in the movie a couple of times, and you're like, oh, okay, right, fair enough. And the ending of it is interesting as well because it seems like they're going to go with again something that Halloween did with Halloween 4, where it's like it looks like Corey Feldman's character. I always blank on the names. I should really have all the names written. Um, is going to be like kind of like the antagonist going forward afterwards because at the end of the movie he kind of gets the mask and puts it on and sneaks up behind someone, and you think, oh, he's gone full on Jason Voorhees. But then obviously they were like, well, no, we need to bring back the real Jason. Um, and so we have to do away with that, which is often the way of these things. Tommy Tommy Jarvis, yeah, that's the character's name because he comes like the kind of like the protagonist, I guess, 4, 5, and 6. But anyway, 5, it's a C for me. Uh, is it better than Jason X? Is it more entertaining than Jason X? No, it isn't. It's going there. Um, it's fine. Yeah, it's fine. So that brings us to Friday the Friday the 13th, Part 6, Jason Lives. Now, Jason Lives is where you have this conundrum. It's like we want to keep doing these movies because people they're making money, they've got fans, but people want Jason, but we killed him at the end of the fourth one. Um, so what do we do? And so they bring him back as a zombie. He gets reanimated by Tommy Jarvis by accident, who is um, having nightmares that he's going to come back, or he doesn't think he's actually dead. So he goes and digs up his body, and then as he's going to burn him, lightning strikes the spade or the spear or whatever it is that's inside him and brings him back. And that tells you everything that you need to know about Friday the 13th Part 6. It is really leans into the B movie sides of things. It really leans into the schlock. It is really self-aware. It kind of does the Scream sense of humor way before Scream. And in fact, I think, and if I'm not mistaken, um, Friday part Friday the part 6 was a big influence on the writer of Scream in terms of like the humor, how it manages humor, how it's kind of tongue in cheek. And it all works. I think this is the most watchable Friday the 13th. It's the most fun. Um, Zombie Jason is kind of what people kind of think of Jason after this point. And probably even when you kind of think of him, they think of him as like this like unstoppable killing machine. And this is from this one, and it's probably the most accessible Friday the 13th film as well. I mean, you don't really have to have watched any of the other ones. You can just go straight into this one. Um, but the thing is, none of them are as funny as this one either. It's definitely its own kind of thing. So it's not something that you would be like, if someone's curious about Friday the 13th, go, oh, we'll start with 6. See if you like that, they'll like it. It's not. If they like that, there's nothing else quite like it. Which on the other hand is quite good as well. If they don't like it, then it's like, well, this is the only one that's like this. But for me, it's my favorite. I think it's the best one. It's got a great cast, really fun. Everyone's having a good time. Um, Great humor, decent carnage. It was getting to the point where these were getting quite strict. With what could happen in these kind of films, particularly the Friday the 13th series, was under a lot of scrutiny, which really impacts the seventh one in particular. But it's my favorite. I like it. So it brings us to the seventh one. So part 7 kind of goes back to not basics because it does something different, but it it in terms of tone, it kind of goes back towards part 2, part 3 to an extent. It's not quite as serious and intense as 4, but it's certainly not as like kind of like humorous as 6. But what this does differently as well is obviously we have zombie Jason again. And the design on him is really good this time because he's kind of just been like trapped under the lake for the intervening time. So he's all like, oozing and he's all decayed from water and stuff. And when his mask comes off, it's like a really great design. And this is the first one with Kane Hodder in it, I think. No, 6 is the first one with Kane Hodder. Kane Hodder's great in this one as well. But what this one is basically it's basically Carrie meets Friday the 13th. So we have like someone who's got telekinesis in this one. that is battling against Jason for reasons, as you will find out when you watch the film. And that is all really fun. Um, the things that aren't quite as fun about this is the rest of the cast in it are really they're not the best. They're not the most memorable. One of them is downright unlikable, which becomes a bit of an issue with this going forward. And also, this was severely scrutinized by censors, and a lot of kind of like the carnage had to be really toned down, which they kind of like tried to get around. There's a couple of like iconic moments in this one, but they're all very very kind of like edited in a certain way, where which wouldn't have been the case in previous entries, which harms it in a way because that's what you want from Friday the 13th. Um, so for me, this one, because of those kind of issues, it goes in around here. And then we come to um, Jason Takes Manhattan, Friday the 13th, 8, where he takes Manhattan, but he's only actually in Manhattan when he's not really because it's not even filmed in New York, apart from a few little bits. For like the last 10 or 15 minutes of the film, most of the film he spends time on a boat that is inexplicably going from Camp Crystal Lake to New York. Not sure how that happens, but let's not think about it too much because clearly the people writing it didn't. Um, this one is the least enjoyable Friday the 13th film. There are still slocky, enjoyable moments in it. The boxing fight that Jason has with the guy on top of the building in Manhattan is very fun, right? Um, but for the most part, it isn't. There's a great shot of like Jason when he first comes out in Times Square. That's really good. Um, but yeah, this is kind of like the run out of ideas kind of bit, and the execution isn't great. The budget isn't quite stretching. I mean, Jason running around Manhattan for an entire movie would be great fun, but obviously they didn't really have the budget for that to happen. Um, and good performance from Kane Hodder again, but yeah, this is not the best. In fact, it is the worst, in my opinion. Which leaves us with Jason Goes to Hell. So this is the first of the New Line Cinema Friday the 13th, which they couldn't call Friday the 13th. They could only, so that's why it's called Jason Goes to Hell and the Jason X, both New Line, and so is Freddy versus Jason. They couldn't use Friday the 13th. So this is the first one from this one. And it's a really unusual one. This one feels like it was going to be a different film, and they just decided to try to put Jason into it. And like Jason himself is only in it in the beginning and like kind of at the end. But isn't it all the way through in a weird way? Because they do some weird things with the lore in this one. So there's these like kind of like little parasites and things that are like the evil of Jason that are kind of going through his bloodline. So they kind of, but they can go and like possess other people. And also it kind of like the Necronomicon is in this as well, from the Evil Dead films, and so it's hinted that Jason is a Deadite as well, which is interesting. And this is when they kind of started to try to really kind of work towards this like team up film, the first one being with Freddy and then with Ash. It's quite bizarre. It's entertaining. Is it a good Friday the 13th film? Probably not, because it lacks a lot of what you want from a Friday the 13th film. But it is entertaining and it is unusual and it's interesting. But is it Friday the 13th? No. So we're going to put this one here. There's some great bits in it. Rufus from Supernatural is in this, basically playing Rufus from Supernatural before he was Rufus in Supernatural, and he is great value. And he's the thing that I think of the most when I think about this film because he is great in it. But the rest of it, it's not as bad as 8, but it's also there. But I'd watch it before 8 any day of the week. So there we go. That is the rate. That is the ranking. Let me know if you agree with it. If you disagree with it, I can take it. And I hope you enjoyed the video. And please like, comment, and subscribe. That would mean a lot. And I will be back soon with more rankings.